Welcome back to another episode of PropSutra with Balaji Rao. Here we aim to demystify and simplify real estate. In today's episode, we'll be diving deep into India's hospitality and hotel sector. We'll be discussing everything from its post-COVID recovery to its economic impact, how hotels are owned, operated, and scaled as real estate assets. Stay tuned. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
So today we'd like to discuss the hospitality and hotel sector in India. My first question would be to understand how large is this industry and how is it defined?
Well, if you see the hospitality industry, it's pretty broadly you can define it because it's any sort of a lodging, boarding, a sort of accommodation which you do for travelers,
Right.
whatever might be the travel, whether it's recreation, business, medical, religious, pilgrimage. So it's a quite a vast industry, and but it is a subset of a larger industry called travel and tourism,
Okay.
where we bring in all the airlines and the buses and the car rentals and all other aspects also. But hospitality industry is more on the accommodation part of
Right.
the travel and the tourism industry, where you can actually go and stay overnight or, refresh yourself. And that sort of a thing is what we define as the hospitality industry. So there are two ways of looking at the hospitality industry. Frankly, I feel it's like an iceberg. What we all see and discuss uh, generally is the branded hospitality, as you call it.
Okay.
What is classified by the Ministry of Tourism or otherwise, as 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, luxury, deluxe, whatever it is. Even 7 star is a term thrown about usually. But there is a hospitality industry that is more driven also by small and medium enterprises. Like you might call them mom and pop stores, you might call them old age. They have been there for decades, if
Right.
not centuries in some cases. So these are the typical small sort of inns and lodges and what you find everywhere all over the country.
Right.
So think about it that in reality, we might be having 2 to 2.5 billion rooms or keys, as we
Right.
call it in this industry. But the so called branded segment is only about 200,000 at the max.
Okay.
You understand? It's growing fast,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just the tip of it. It's just about 10% of the overall hospitality industry.
Right.
So when you compare that sort of a number,
Right.
200,000 with those in Thailand or even in a developed country, naturally will look pretty much underserved, undersupplied.
Right.
You understand? But it won't be so fair to compare it because, as I said, we do have all sorts of lodging and boarding accommodation and arrangements all over the country. But most of them being unbranded go unseen.
Right.
You understand? So that is the size of the industry in a way.
So when you talk about branded, these are Indian and international brands. How is the composition?
Yeah, they are both Indian as well as international brands. And there are, in my opinion, three types of branding that is coming about. You have the Indian homegrown brands. You have the Taj, the Oberoi, you had the Leela at one time. And you have the foreign brands, the flags, like you have the Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But you also have a third one, which is the new age tech driven hotel chains. Like when you talk about Oyo or Tribo, or they are the aggregators,
Right.
and they are doing a real great service in the industry because they are the ones who are trying to bring, as I said, the submerged part of the iceberg out of it.
Right.
Because when you give it a branding, when you give it more marketing efforts, when you give it standardization, when you help them with booking and reservation, you naturally are making a lot of difference to that unorganized sector. You're bringing it more and more into the limelight, as well as getting them organized and structured and professionalized. So they're all the three types. So basically, when we do talk about branded, yes, they would comprise of all the three types of hotel chains and flags, what we call.
But before we get into how hotels operate, I would like to talk to you a little bit about how this industry suffered during the pandemic and how we've recovered since then.
Yeah. That's a good question because I think 2000 was a watershed year for the hospitality industry. It's the industry next to aviation and travel which got maximum hit
Correct.
in a way. So naturally, it plunged, and it plunged pretty much to abysmal levels of occupancy. It became 30 to 40%
Yes.
in some of the cases. And so there was a very steep fall, and some of the hotels folded up, some of them gave up. And it has bounced back since then, naturally. But it's taken them almost 3 to 4 years to bounce back.
Right.
If I can say so, to 2024 would have been the first year when we would have again reached the figures of
Pre-COVID.
pre-COVID.
Right.
So it has taken a long time for travel to catch up
Right.
and the occupancies to rise to again the 60s and the 70s, which we were seeing pre-COVID.
Right.
Okay. So 2025 saw a little bit better growth. So we are now started growing. So we have a good 4 to 5 years loss by way of occupancy or by way of revenues in
Right.
this industry. But it has bounced back, and travel has come back with a vengeance, not just international travelers, but also domestic travel has gone up steeply.
Right.
And that's making a big difference
Right.
to the industry.
Yes, domestic travelers have doubled since COVID.
Correct.
And indications show that it's only going to rise.
Correct.
Why do you think that is? Why has there been such a insurgence of travel?
I think a couple of reasons for it. Domestic tourism, I think, is being driven by a lot by the new generations. So you have a lot of youngsters who travel a lot nowadays. Then there has been the revival of a spirit of nationalism combined with spirituality. So, like, say, suddenly you see an Ayodhya
Yes.
on the map, attracting a lot of visitors,
Right.
both from India as well as abroad. So you have a lot of this resurgence in, I would call, the neo pilgrimages,
Right.
where people want to go see the temples and see the architecture, the sculpture. So there's been a resurgence in that. Then I think there's been a resurgence in our whole MICE segment,
Right.
which is in our industry stands for meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibitions, but also the weddings, if you look at it.
Right.
So you outstation weddings, destination weddings have seen a big upsurge.
Right.
So when you put all this together, you see the domestic traveler is traveling much more. Plus the fares have come down, whether it is airfares or the rail fares, to a large extent have got rationalized, they've got speeded up, highways have been made so people can travel by road to closer destinations. So all this, you add it up together,
Right.
you do find that it contributes a lot to the numbers
Right.
which you see traveling and enjoying various destinations today.
Yeah. So even in the research we were doing for this episode, it was interesting to see that there was a lot of new activity, new hotels opening up, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Like you said, around the religious locations. So there seems to be a high demand in those areas. Do you see this sustaining for a long period of time?
Yes, because I personally feel youngsters of today are not just going on the beaten paths. Okay, they are very adventurous. They want to see the real India. So you're now getting into rural and semi-urban areas. You want to see the type 2, type 3. You'll suddenly see there's a resurgence of people going to a place like Hampi.
Right.
You understand? So when you see this sort of growth, then naturally hotels will follow. You
Right.
understand? Because the unbranded hotels might not be able to pick up the slack, the
Right.
demand. So there is been a growth of even branded hotels,
Right.
if you see, in and around this tier 2, tier 3, especially when they're closer to the metro cities.
Right.
Because from the metro cities, people drive down. So suddenly you might see very well a Hilton coming up, as we have seen in Lonavala, because
Yes.
it's easy to drive down.
Yeah.
So you will see a lot more of these around the metropolitan cities, as well as places of religious, historical importance, or even nature, you know, wildlife, nature, So I think there's been a complete metamorphosis of way people think. Today, people do not really think they should save a lot of money for their retirement.
Right.
They think of enjoying their money with experiences. So when you want to enjoy money and it is affordable, airfares or going by road or bus or train or whatever it is, you will tend to spend on that.
Historically, did hotels make money through room rentals, or was it events? Was it F&B, restaurants? How do hotels make money?
If you look at the branded segment,
Right.
okay, because in the unbranded, you still make a lot of money only on the room rent.
Right.
Okay. In the branded segment, historically, all over the world, people make money out of room and the ancillaries that go with it.
Okay.
Laundries and the telephones, it used to be earlier. But in Asia, and especially in India, for the branded segment, a lot of money is made out of the MICE, FMB,
Okay.
banqueting.
All right.
So some of the successful hotels actually have 60% of the revenues coming in from that, not from the room rental. So most hotels in India, even if it is not necessary for star classification,
Right.
will have a lot of these banqueting facilities ready
Okay.
because that makes money for them. And
Right.
that also gets them a lot of traffic and footfalls.
Right.
When they come and see the place, hotel. That's where, if you see in India, all hotels will have very grand lobbies,
Uh-huh.
grand reception areas,
Right.
because the footfalls are quite a few.
Okay.
So even if the room might be underwhelming,
Right.
the whole reception area, the foyer, the lobbies, the banqueting areas, the meeting rooms, the conference rooms, those will all be very grand
Right.
with chandeliers and carpets and everything.
Right.
Because the main idea is to make someone feel is going to a big hotel, big chain,
Right.
So it is a large component of the revenue in the hospitality industry.
How are hotels typically structured in India? Who owns them? Who operates them? Who owns the land?
See, it's not a question of who owns the land. They're basically, uh, in my opinion, there are three categories or three types of people involved in a hotel. One is the hotel owner.
Right.
Now, who owned the land and who developed it doesn't matter. He might have done it himself or he might have bought it, but he is the owner of the hotel.
Right.
Okay. The other is who is operating it or managing it.
Okay.
You understand? So, the person operating or managing can be the owner or might not be the owner.
Right.
Okay. The third is what we call whose flag is on it.
What do you mean?
Okay. I'll come to that. So, whenever what you all talk as brand names, we talk about it as flags.
Okay.
So, do you want a Hilton or a Hyatt or a Taj or a Leela or whatever flag you want to carry?
Right.
Now, when you want a brand or a flag,
Mm-hmm.
there are two types of thing. You understand?
Okay.
That they might want to own the hotel also.
All right.
Okay, typically the Indian hotels like Taj, Oberoi, the Lalit Group, the Leelas at one time, they owned the hotels, they operated, managed the hotels, and it was their flag.
Okay.
It was all one. And similarly, abroad, it started like that,
Okay.
even with the big brands.
All right.
Slowly started dividing because you cannot, when you have that model, you cannot grow very fast because
Okay.
it's asset heavy. Every time you want to put a flag, that means you actually have to own the hotel to put your flag on it, to put your brand on it.
Right.
So you start trying to figure out what is an asset light model.
Okay.
So when you think of an asset light model, you'll say, can I lend my brand to someone as long as he's going to protect its quality, its standards, its operating protocols?
Right.
So that can be of two types again.
Mm-hmm.
The higher brands, which are very conscious of their star classification or their luxury image or premium image, they will generally want to do what we call a management contract.
Okay.
So, a management contract in the hotel industry is nothing but the brand says, look, I will have a small team out there.
Right.
The rest of the people in the hotel, they can be belonging to the owner. So the
Right.
owner creates a SPV or a company, and most of the employees of that hotel are owned or are employees of that SPV.
Okay.
And he says, I will put in a small team, maybe 10 people, maybe more, maybe less, depending upon the size of the hotel and the complexity of its operations.
Right.
And they will keep on training, teaching, guiding the rest of the people to follow the SOPs and the protocols.
Okay.
For that, they take a percentage of the revenue,
Okay.
as well as they take a share in the net operating profits of the company.
Okay.
So that's generally the most popular model in a way for the upper brands.
Okay.
So when a Marriott or a Hilton or a Hyatt in India grows, they're generally with management contracts.
Okay.
So they talk to an owner and say, let's take it over, let's put our flag. Because the idea of putting his brand or flag on the property is that it attracts more people.
Right.
It standardizes somebody, and especially when you have these so-called, you know, uh, what we would call the loyalty programs,
Yes.
Hilton Honors or Marriott Bonvoy, naturally they will attract that entire crowd to come to a Marriott hotel.
Right.
You understand? So that's a management contract.
Right.
The other type, the third type is, he says, if especially if the brands are slightly lower in classification, they operate even out of a franchise model. Now, in a franchise model, they don't have anybody stationed in the property.
Okay.
They do periodic visits and inspection to see that the quality is being managed and the protocols are being managed.
Right.
But they are just franchising their brand.
Okay.
Okay. So Wyndham hotels are known as the franchise kings in this hospitality industry. And say a Ramada usually will be a franchise model
Okay.
where there is no Wyndham hotel employee in that hotel at any time. They come for visits, they do surprise checks, but they don't necessarily sit there and run the show unless something has gone wrong or is just starting.
Right.
Okay. So that's a franchise model where again you take a sliver of the revenue because you're giving them that brand and flag to attract
Right.
your customers and clients. So there are all three models which run. So basically, many people are confused. So when you walk into a Marriott hotel, you might think it's a Marriott property. It is not a Marriott property. It is maybe being owned by a developer.
Right.
It might be owned by a Chalet Hotels, it might be owned by Prestige, it might be owned by a Brigade, it might be owned by a developer or the owner who is the owner of it. And they have done a management contract with this hotel company or hospitality company to guide them and run the show for them
Right.
because they are experts in the hospitality industry.
Right.
And these people are experts in maybe designing and developing the hotel.
Right.
You understand? So there are these various types which exist and coexist in India, right from the Taj owned
Right.
as well as managed as well as flagged
Right.
by their brands and Oberoi to these other properties where it is owned by someone and managed by someone.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's a wrap for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to come back next week for a whole lot more. Hit the bell icon for regular notifications and do share your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you so much for tuning in.